She's the founder and CEO of Center for Teacher Accreditation, CENTA. It's a social enterprise that aims to make teaching a rewarding and an aspirational profession. That's a task. She has been awarded as one of the 15 women transforming India by United Nations and Niti Aayog in 2019. Last year, 2020, she received awards from both her alma maters. How brilliant is that? Outstanding contribution to National Development Award by IIT Delhi and IIM Calcutta's prestigious Distinguished Alumni Awards. Hi, I'm Nivedita, and today I'm in conversation with Ramya Venkataraman. I invite here thought leaders in education who are doing path breaking and pioneering work in the space of education. Welcome to the show, Ramya, and thanks for
Thank you very
taking
much.
time. Thank you for
Thank you.
taking
Glad to be here.
time to share your thoughts with me and my viewers. Yeah, it's very precious time for educators, and it's even more precious time for people who are helping the educators transform into something which we have never faced in the past. So Ramya, before moving into education, you have in other industries, sectors like manufacturing, infrastructure, and in several geographies, India, North America, Europe, Asia. What made you move into education and how did CENTA happen?
Sure. So my interest in education started actually at a very young age when I was in school. And right at that time, due to certain incidents, I started saying that I want to work in education. And in fact, at that time, you don't know what it means to work in education. So I used to say, I want to set up a school because that's all you know, that, okay, you can set up a school. And throughout my IIT and IIM days, I continued to say that that's what I want to do. I mean, obviously, I did not go down that path immediately because I was quite interested in engineering. I was headed towards preparing for IIT. So that happened in parallel. But throughout I was saying that, I also did a little bit of volunteering work at that time as a student. But that taught me that before I start working in education, I should have a bunch of skills that I learn in a very, very professional environment. So I realized that my volunteering was not really having the kind of impact I would like to have. And I did not have the skills for having that impact. So I decided that I'm going to pursue a regular corporate career for a while, be part of an organization where I can build a bunch of skills and then look at working in education. And luckily got into McKinsey and Company, which is a management consulting firm from campus after my MBA. And that was a fantastic grounding for a range of professional skills. And like everybody else, I worked in various sectors, various geographies. That's part of a natural career in management consulting. And being a mechanical engineer by background, I did have a lot of interest in manufacturing and heavy industries. And that's what I started specializing in. I quite enjoyed working in power, steel, power equipment, all that. But throughout my first 10 years in McKinsey also, I was doing a fair bit of volunteering, particularly with Akanksha Foundation in Mumbai and a couple of other organizations. And somewhere, I think by the time I was finishing about 10 years in McKinsey, I started feeling that, okay, now the time has come to take a plunge. And a couple of things happened at that time, which also made me feel like, okay, now I should not keep delaying this. One should do what one wants to do quickly. And 2008 end is when I went back to McKinsey and said, okay, I want to start something in education now. And by the time starting a school became starting something, because I was no longer clear that, okay, this is what I want to do, but I want to do something in education. And my colleagues in McKinsey said, you don't seem to be very clear. Why don't you instead build McKinsey's education practice? So I said, okay, let me try that for a while. And that ended up being the next 6 years almost, So from 2009 to end of 2014, I built and headed McKinsey's education practice in India, and also worked in a few other geographies in education, but primarily in India. And through that, did a lot of large scale work on driving improvements in certain government systems, building certain organizations. So helped in building organizations like Teach for India, National Skill Development Corporation, Azim Premji University. So helped in building some of these. And that was a very lucky experience, because more than whatever impact I might have had, I think it had a lot of impact on me in terms of learning the problems of the sector much better. And the biggest learning that I had, for at least what I felt, was that we keep telling teachers that you need to improve, you need to get trained, use better content, better techniques, etc., etc. But then the teacher comes back and says, okay, all that is fine, and I'm happy with the impact I'm having on my students, but I would also like my own career to grow if I'm putting in all this kind of effort. And which is a very fair expectation for any professional, that if I am doing a good job, I'm putting in effort, I should be recognized in a disproportionate manner, rather than the person next door who is not doing any of that but getting exactly the same salary, same promotion, same level of acknowledgement. And I started seeing that as a very big bottleneck and a piece of the jigsaw puzzle that nobody was solving. And therefore, then end of 2014 is when I finally left McKinsey and started Center for Teacher Accreditation, CENTA, with the purpose that we would try and make teaching a more aspirational career. And the way we do that is by certifying teachers on their competencies, connecting them to a range of career opportunities based on that certificate. And over time, we have also started focusing on the professional development side. So long answer to your short question, but that's the background of how CENTA started.
That's absolutely a wonderful trajectory. What a journey. And always we feel that in education, the more we share our learning, the more we learn from each other, gives us an idea of the space that is, because education keeps shifting over generations and keep transforming over generations, and the needs shift. In our times, in my times, the teachers had a certain different kind of a value, certain different kind of a respect. In my parents' times, who were all teachers in their generation, and I've actually seen my the town, whenever they would see my great grandfather and grandfather, they would actually prostrate on the ground and worship them. So it didn't matter that we were a middle class, very teaching. The overall satisfaction from respect was huge. But over time, as things moved, the remuneration remained same or lesser, and the respect also dwindled over time, which brought teachers who were either getting disillusioned or teachers who were not really passionate about the work they were doing. So I can imagine the role of CENTA that you have envisioned, of building teaching as an aspirational career. We have gone through the graph like this, and now it's a task to bring it up there. So what you have envisioned as to be the role of CENTA, has it changed over the years, especially in the last year when education experienced a tectonic shift overnight?
So firstly, so I'll answer that in two parts. So one is that we were, for the first 3-4 years, we were entirely only a teacher certification entity. And in fact, even certification we launched a little bit later, We originally started with only an annual competition for teachers, which we called as CENTA Teaching Professionals Olympiad, which continues. And this year is the 7th year of the competition, which and it's an international competition now. But we started with that, and that was a step towards certification. And for 3-4 years, we were basically a teacher certification entity. Now, more and more, as the value for that certification built, so thousands of private schools across the country started using it in recruiting, in promotion, in various kinds of rewards. Certain state governments started using it in various ways. So some state governments used it for soft reward recognition. Then about 1.5 years back, Andhra Pradesh became the first government to explicitly use it for promotion. And that came out of a Niti Aayog initiative where they took us to all the states and made us present the CENTA standards as something that could be relevant for the governments to think about. And Andhra Pradesh then became the first one to adopt it in policy. And some of the other governments are now thinking about it. So as the value for that certificate grew, on one hand, of course, more and more teachers wanted to get certified. But more importantly, and this is the fundamental thing we wanted, which is that teachers therefore wanted to improve their competencies towards that certification. And a lot of teachers and a lot of schools and school leaders would come back to us and say, okay, it's great that you have this assessment, which seems to be very well designed and it seems to bring out teacher competencies well. But now, how do we build those competencies, and can CENTA support that? And we used to say, no, we don't train teachers, and you can figure out various options. But over time, we realized that, that's not a very useful answer. So over the last couple of years, one of the shifts we have gone through is that we also have a part of our organization which is focused on the development side. And we offer a range of free resources on our learning platform called MyCENTA. And we also have programs both by us and by entities whose programs are affiliated by us. So we, in 2019, we also became what is called a certification trademark, which basically means that we can accredit the quality of another product or service in education. And we accredit a bunch of teacher training programs based on that. So that was one big shift, that we started also supporting teachers on their development and not only on the certification and career growth. The other part of your question, which is the last 1 year with the whole COVID situation. So frankly, when COVID started, all of us were very unclear, how is it going to impact the work we are doing and so on. But we actually came across a very interesting dynamic, which is that while, yes, it has been stressful for teachers having to move to a different form of teaching, not getting that physical energy from students, and at the same time, being loaded with work at home, etc. So it has been stressful, and want to fully acknowledge that. But the interesting opportunity that has come out is that teaching has become very visible to parents and other stakeholders for whom it was always a black box. So parents would look at a school based on, okay, the infrastructure is good, they have some good technology, they have a sports program, etc., etc. But though parents understood that, yes, teachers play the most important role, there was no way for parents to know, is a teacher good or is a teacher not so good? And now parents are making that difference in their own minds and saying, yes, in the same school, I'm able to see that one teacher is good and one teacher is not so good. And this in turn has become a fantastic opportunity for teachers who are competent and for schools who have competent teachers to be able to really showcase that to their parent audience and not have to only rely on things like infrastructure, etc., but to be able to showcase that, yes, my teachers are capable and therefore I'm a good school, even if I'm an upcoming school, even if I'm a lesser known school, etc. And it has also become a requirement for teachers and schools to get upskilled, to get certified. And we started seeing massive growth in that interest. So interestingly, we were working with about 1.5 lakh teachers at the start of the pandemic, and we work with about 2.5 lakh teachers today. And they come from more than 6,000 locations across the country, more than 30,000 schools. And there is also international interest. We are working a little bit in UAE, in Africa, etc. So it has been a very interesting time for the profession, at least for those who want to grow and develop their competencies.
Right. So actually, it's very heartening. And the schools and the teachers I worked with, and also actually even in the undergrad, the higher education sector. So what I can...
Yeah, we are working with quite a few colleges as well. In fact, with some very reputed universities.
Yeah. So the focus I'm seeing, and I concur with you on this, that it has shifted from purely very infrastructural focused, on space and time related education, to actually, first of all, student is managing their own pace. And secondly, the teacher, the transaction of the curriculum, the transaction of the content has come back into focus once again. So that is something I can completely relate to, because the students are also more cognizant of what is happening within the classroom for purely content transactions, for purely skill assessment, because the rest of the factors are have reduced overall.
Yeah, of course. Having said that, I do hope we move back to a physical mode of education, or at least a blended mode, quite quickly, because there is no substitute for that in-person interaction. But I think what we have gained from this pandemic, which is to make teaching visible to society, we have to figure out other ways to sustain that.
Right. So when a teacher comes to CENTA, what should she be looking for? She should be looking for accreditation, certification, professional development, or a forum where they can connect with each other. Is it like if they take a certification once, can they improve on that certification score by taking another? What does it look like for a teacher in CENTA?
So teachers can look forward to 4 things. As you rightly said, they can look forward to getting certified. They can look forward to a lot of professional development resources. They can look forward to being part of a community, which is across the country and increasingly across the world. And they can also look for, if they are looking for career growth opportunities or supplemental income opportunities, there are also those kinds of options available. And at the same time, if a school wants a space in my center where its own teachers can learn, grow, connect, etc., we also create that sort of cordoned off space, which is therefore also, it doesn't get into the whole career opportunity side. It becomes entirely about learning and mutual connection. So depending on whether people are approaching as an individual teacher versus an institution, there are some of these differences, but broadly it's about learning, community, certification, career growth, everything about the professional life of a teacher. And as far as the certification itself is concerned, yes, somebody who gets a particular, so we do have different, so we have a basic assessment called CENTA Teaching Quotient, which people can take almost any time. So there are like multiple slots available every month, and you can take it from your home, wherever. And CENTA Teaching Quotient in many ways is our basic assessment towards everything else. So even if you apply for, let's say, a certification in online teaching, or a certification on content development and planning, because we also have these theme-wise certifications. So if you apply for a certification on any of these things, you would still do the teaching quotient as the first thing, and then you would do additional practical exercises in that particular area. Similarly, the teaching quotient is also the first stage of our teaching professionals Olympiad. So the top 5,000 people get selected for the teaching professionals Olympiad finals. So this serves as the prelim. So the CENTA teaching quotient is the basic thing. And the CENTA teaching quotient is a score of 0 to 100. And if somebody says, okay, I didn't get a very good score according to me, and I want to improve it, then as you said, we have a minimum time frame of 3 months, after which they can reapply to improve their score whenever they want. And the same kind of system is there for our more in-depth certifications. So if you applied for a certification on online teaching, certification on content development, or a certification in early childhood education, whatever, then we also have a principal certification now. So whichever one you applied for, then we have a minimum time frame after which you can reapply in case you did not clear, etc. And if you did clear also, then we have a validity of 5 years, after which you can either revalidate after 5 years, or you can go to the next level, because all our certifications have a level 1, level 2, level 3, where for experienced and senior teachers, we would expect that they may want to go for the level 2 or level 3.
So is it for a particular kind of curriculum? You said it is India and abroad. So how does it pan out across curricula, content and skills? Is it pan curriculum? How does it pan out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are completely agnostic to curricula, and our competency framework, which we call CENTA standards, and it's a framework that is publicly available. And in fact, there are a lot of schools which don't necessarily work with us, but still use that framework for their internal appraisals and things like that. So it's publicly available for anyone to refer to and use. And and it's been widely reviewed, etc. Now, this framework is a teacher competency framework, which is completely agnostic of whether you are a CBSE teacher, state board, IB, Cambridge, American core curriculum, whatever curriculum it is. And interestingly, we have found teachers and schools from across curricula finding it to be relevant. Obviously, there are differences. So, for example, when we test a teacher's subject understanding, we focus quite a lot on conceptual understanding and application of the subject rather than only knowledge. Now, it is possible that there are certain boards which are more focused on knowledge, and therefore the teacher feels, oh, this is different from how I prepare for the board exam. And yeah, that difference might be there. The topic is not different, and we have done a full mapping of topics across curricula to make sure that we are using only the common topics in our testing, because the testing is subject specific, and at least part of the testing is subject specific. And for that, we use only the common topics across curricula.
So if we say that this is the current time bubble that we are in, and you have already worked towards modifying over time where CENTA is today. So a whole lot of, I think, maturity has happened with so many more my CENTAs happening in CENTA. So it has, I would like to believe that there has been crunching of even CENTA's growth vision. So what do you think, in closing, what do you think you see the role of CENTA going forward as the scene of education has changed? And yes, we will go back to physical learning, but education does not look that it will go back to being the same as it were pre-pandemic. So it is like a pre-pandemic and during pandemic and post-pandemic eras in education, if I may say. So what would be your vision for CENTA going forward?
So fundamentally, pandemic or no pandemic, fundamentally, CENTA is focused on teachers. So whatever a teacher requires for his or her professional life is what CENTA is all about. And whether it is a new teacher trying to figure out an opportunity, whether it is an existing teacher trying to grow, whether it is a teacher trying to get broader public recognition, whether a teacher trying to learn, trying to get certified, whatever it is, trying to understand where he or she stands. So whatever a teacher requires for his or her professional life is what CENTA is all about. And I think that core we don't see changing in any foreseeable future. Of course, as the role of teachers and the role of teaching keeps evolving, with the pandemic being one of the factors, CENTA adapts to that. So, for example, since last year, one of the learning areas has been online teaching, and teachers have been very keen to understand that. Schools have been very keen to understand that. So, we've had thousands of teachers, and for that matter, college faculty, etc., go through what we call our rapid upskilling program on online teaching, which still happens every month. And it started during the pandemic. It still continues, and every month we have a batch which is related to that. And similarly, if you find that there are now career opportunities across the world, so career opportunities are not just limited to your geography, but even if you don't want to move, there are online teaching opportunities across the world. And we are able to bring some of those kinds of career opportunities to teachers now, which we may not have been able to bring earlier. So those are some of the ways in which we would keep adapting. So EdTech, for example, has grown a lot, and almost every EdTech player is in touch with CENTA to go through teacher certification or to find certified teachers in a particular area. So those are some of the evolutions that keep happening. But our primary commitment remains to teachers. And in that context, I would say that if I think about it 5 years from now, I would like to see CENTA be like the absolute gold standard for a teacher, not only in India, but also in a bunch of other emerging countries. And through that, I would like to see that society start seeing teaching more and more as an aspirational profession, that many of us as parents start telling our sons and daughters to seriously consider teaching. I mean, that's the best indicator. Do you tell your own son or daughter to seriously consider teaching, not only because it's a noble profession, that of course remains, but also because it can be a great career. And we actually start doing that. And primary breadwinners start seeing this as a profession they want to pursue. We start seeing global mobility in the profession. Right. So those are some of the things that we would like to envisage. And these are long-term things. And CENTA is one of the catalysts towards that. Obviously, there are many forces at play. And we will basically be one of the catalysts towards that.
That sounds so beautiful, actually, as an educator. And the teachers that I work with constantly, because always we feel when any of our students, we have those profession days or community days in the school.
Yeah.
And when some of our students come up and say, I want to be a teacher, I must tell you, our hearts swell with pride, because it's most of the children for many years have not aspired to be teachers. So that fulfillment, that wish fulfillment, when we want to use education and teachers as people who empower others and are empowered themselves, the more they feel empowered themselves, the more empowerment will pass on. So thanks Ramya for your time, and I could actually have gone on talking with you. For those who are watching this show, I will share the details of CENTA in the description for you to check it out and register. So please subscribe to the channel. Watch out for the thought leaders in the space of education as they share what they are thinking, implementing, and what we as educators look forward to. Thank you. Thank you, Seth.
Thank you very much. Great being here, Nivedita.
Thank you. Thank you.